Let's discuss the latest developments in the Russia-Ukraine conflict and their economic fallout with Daniel Serwer. Daniel is a professor at the School of Advanced International Studies at Johns Hopkins University. Daniel, thanks very much for joining us. Let's start with what we know and really what we don't know yet. Sanctions have had a crippling effect. Some are predicting devastating long-term effects for Russia. How do you see it playing out so far?
Exactly that way. Immediate effects, pretty bad, but longer-term effects, even worse. Russia is going to, even if it's victorious militarily in Ukraine, is going to suffer mightily from this war.
Daniel, from one thing I've read, people say this could hurt Russia 10, 20, 30 years down the road financially. What about people in Ukraine? What do they need immediately? One can only imagine the situation is simply dire for water, food, and medicine.
The immediate needs are shelter, water, food, medicine. But the fact of the matter is the Ukrainians are fighting and fighting hard. And that's what's so disturbing to the Russians. They clearly did not plan for a war that would last weeks. The news that they may have asked for help from China illustrates a really catastrophic situation for the Russian army.
Let's pick up on that. And the U.S.-China talks, and let's discuss the significance about that. It seems that so many countries really expect if anybody is going to come to the aid of Russia, it is going to be China. But China has repeatedly urged negotiations and a peaceful settlement. How important is the relationship with those two nations, and do you see it becoming more strained, or the two countries closer together? What do you see?
China has made a statement at the time of the Olympics, a very close relationship with Russia. But the fact of the matter is they don't appear to have anticipated this invasion of Ukraine, and it's putting enormous strain on that pledge of cooperation with Russia. China has enormous assets at stake with the United States and with Europe, and to sacrifice those for the sake of an ill-conceived aggression in Ukraine is just not going to appeal to Beijing when it's calling for a peaceful settlement. So I think Beijing is in a tight spot right now and is going to need to choose between its loyalty to the pledge it made with Putin and its real interests, which lie with Europe and the United States.
Let's move on. The number of nations, including developing countries, that depend on Ukraine and Russia for wheat is huge, and it appears to be just one key element in the global food crisis. How bad do you see the struggle for food getting globally?
Well, I think the price is going to go up, but food production is widely distributed globally, and I expect that farmers all around the world, but especially in places like Brazil and the United States, traditional suppliers of agricultural products, they've already made their plans based on the lack of supplies from Russia and Ukraine. So I expect you'll see some considerable market response to the situation, and I won't say it doesn't cause any difficulty, because a price increase can cause serious difficulties, but I think it might be a bit less than what some people are suggesting.
Well, that could be good news. And we're also seeing people fleeing the Ukraine in huge numbers, more than 2.8 million so far, half of which went to Poland. What kind of burden is that putting on neighboring nations?
It's putting on a big burden, but the neighboring nations have been willing to shoulder that burden for the moment. The real problem comes 6 months from now, a year from now, 3 years from now, if those refugees are still unable to return to Ukraine. That's going to have enormous economic impacts and possibly political impacts as well throughout Europe. So I think it's really important that whatever happens in Ukraine, it should be something that enables people to return home, and that means no Russian occupation.